This is a special programming note. Before I start the show, I just want to let you know that when I recorded this show, I want you to know that I recorded this show with some people that I very much admired and I really enjoyed having in the show. I reached out to them to get them on the show, and I was so happy that they agreed to come on the show. And I'm embarrassed to admit that I did the thing that podcasters ought not ever do, in that I forgot to hit the record button when I started the show. So my special guests today are Rod and Karen from the Black Guy Who Tips podcast. And before we officially started the show, we talked about some technical issues. We actually had a conversation about me forgetting to press the record button when we start podcasting. And it's just crazy that is exactly what happened on this podcast. In the production of podcasts, what often happens is that both the guest and the host record their own backup recordings of the podcast. So for half of this podcast, I'm using Rod and Karen's backup recording, but it doesn't have my voice on it. So the format for the show is going to be a little bit different than what you're used to. The quality of the audio might change, but I got it to match as best that I could. So I really hope you enjoy the show. Here we go. Testing. 1, 2, 3. With possession of this body, my victory is nigh. Halloween is forever, and this body is mine. No, I won't go.
Child, please. Do you know what time it is? It's Thanksgiving and Black Friday. It's been time for you to go. Pack your bags and say goodbye. I'm sending you straight back to hell.
No. What a world. Oh, I'm back. My possession has been dispelled. I am no longer possessed by the warlock. Special thanks to my friend Black Friday, who has dispelled the demon from my body. Or spirit, or whatever it is. Anyway, I'm back. My name is Zoe. It's spelled Z-O or Z-O for those of you outside of the U.S. It's the 124th episode. Thank you for downloading and streaming. We really appreciate it. We watch the movies of yesteryear that I loved when I was growing up in the late 1900s. If you like what you're about to hear, then please tell your family, tell your friends, and tell that crew of badass space mercenaries about Backlick Cinema, the podcast. Now, joining me in the studio are two guests I greatly admire. They've been in the podcast game for over 10 years. Being multi-talented has allowed them to work on a variety of platforms, including audio plays, talk shows, and convention panelists. Ladies and gentlemen, and people from across the spectrum, I introduce to you the co-hosts of the long-running, award-winning show, the Black Guy Who Tips podcast, Rod and Karen Morrow.
Hey, baby.
Hey, thank you for having us.
Thank you. We're happy to be here.
When I last had Rod and Karen on the show, they were the hosts of their podcast, The Black Guy Who Tips, and Rod was the writer on Game Theory with Romani Jones on HBO. Now the star couple are working on both their show and Michael Harriot's podcast, Drapetomaniacs, Unshackled History. Karen worked as a voice actor on Drapetomaniacs, and I asked her about her experience as well as what it was like for Rod to write for that show.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun. Me and Roderick has done voice acting before. We worked with Dexter at Shadow Dog Production, and he used to have us come down to his studio. And so I kind of have went through that curve, if that makes sense, because it's a different muscle with voice acting. And so we had a ball doing it, and we recorded late at night. And so it was really fun. I got to animate. I got to be loud. I got to scream, and Rob was kind of my coach because he was like, it's a crowd. I was like, okay, since it's a crowd, I'm going to be extra with it. I had a ball.
Yeah, and it's been fun on me. I wrote a lot of the episodes and performed in a lot of them. And, it's just been fun watching it come to life, especially when you have like a team of people that do production stuff. So the crazy ideas in my head aren't just, me saying it into a microphone or an actor saying it. There's sound design and all these other character choices and things that happen that really bring it to life. And Black history is something that's near and dear to my heart, as is comedy. So to be able to like finally write something that merges those two was just it's a dream.
Michael Harriot is a journalist and writer for The Griot, a news website. He is known for his in-depth Black history threads on Twitter. I asked Rod if he's learned new Black history from working with Mr. Harriot.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's some of these people I didn't even know about when we started. Michael Harriot is, I call him Negropedia Britannica, because he knows so many things about like Black history. Like he remembers stuff as tangents that, I've never even heard. And so, some of our episodes, like the one we had on Onesimus, or Onesimus, I think that's how you pronounce it, was so cool because I didn't know a Black man basically brought the idea of vaccination to America.
Right.
I learned that for the first time, listening to the episode and looking up the research for it. So yeah, I absolutely was learning a lot of stuff, and I'm not a person that doesn't know a lot about Black history. So anytime I'm learning stuff, that means we got some deep cuts coming up.
I asked Rod if he thought Drapetomaniacs would be returning for a second season and his hopes for the future of the show.
Yeah, definitely, man. Very fun project. Glad people dig it. Honestly, I hope we get like some award nomination stuff coming up, because I know podcast award season is starting, and I truly feel that proud of it. And as a person that listens to a lot of podcasts, I feel like it deserves it, and it's that unique. And I hope that Sony puts the muscle behind it to get us on some lists, because we deserve that.
There was an episode in season 1, episode 14 of Drapetomaniacs called Making Black AF History. That episode featured Michael Harriot as a know-it-all. Was that a parody?
Oh, parody for sure. When I wrote that, I told everybody, I said, because they wanted me to write it. It was their idea to do like something where make it a behind the scenes like interview style thing. And I'm silly. I want to break the fourth wall. I want to do all the too much stuff. And so them asking me to write it, I was probably the most excited to write that than anything else we got to write. And I told everyone, I'm not gonna be mean. So
right.
But I am going to make fun of like everyone. I'm going to play up the thing that, so, we had Joanne, who's the only non-Black person. So I made a lot of stuff about her not necessarily understanding all the slang, because one time she corrected the spelling of Nintendo to Nintendo in one of my scripts. And I was like, no, that's on purpose. That's how old Black people say it. And Janisha, who keeps us on point, but she's also the person that, understands this is going out to the world. So she's the one that tells us like, that idea is not going to work, or, hey, we need to think about it from this perspective. So I played her up to make her kind of like a hater, quote unquote. And literally like Nolika, who's like our senior producer, like over the whole thing, basically, she's a dreamer, and she just thinks everything is possible. If you tell her an idea, at one point I made a joke about it, but then I found out later after I wrote the script that there was a point where she thought maybe we could get Beyonce to do some of the voice acting. So I was, to me, I was like, oh, that's crazy. That'll never happen. But she legitimately thought that was possible. And so it's just, so everybody's like a caricature. And while Michael is not as intrusive with the Black history stuff, and the facts and quotes I wrote for him in that episode were like mostly make believe stuff, or like exaggerations blended with real stuff,
Yes, because I thought it was hilarious. You were like, ain't you supposed to be over there teaching somebody the history of the electric slide? I was like, yeah, there is a history behind that.
Yeah, it was like there's a point where I made it so the way I wrote it was that as the party went on, he progressively was drinking more. And so the facts near the end are almost all just completely ridiculous. Like a person like black people invented podcasting back in the ancient Africa. Like, that's impossible. So I just thought it would be funny to have him say stuff like that because he just knows so much stuff. So yeah, man, I had a great time writing it, and it was so fun. It was probably my favorite episode to write.
I asked Karen if she would want to return to Drapetomaniacs as a voice actor, and what character would she like to play?
Yes. If they ask me to come back, I'll be more than happy to come back. I did an episode of Ida B. Wells, and I had a ball doing that. So if they invite me to come back, I'm more than happy to come back. You know what? I don't think they cover. I would love to do Madam C.J. Walker. And the biggest reason why I want to do Madam C.J. Walker, I remember I was a little girl in school, and when they was like, she was one of the first black millionaire, like, ever in America. And I remember covering that as a child. I did like a history report on her. Like, I did like a really big deep dive as a child. And that's something that actually really stood out in my memory really hard. And so that's like a history that's kind of close to me. So if they ever do Madam C.J. Walker, I would absolutely positively love to just do a voiceover just for her if they ever do a deep dive into her.
At the time of this interview, I couldn't remember if Drapetomaniacs had an episode on Robert Smalls, so I asked Rod about that.
No, we haven't. There's so many people we haven't done. And I think, Michael, because he knows kind of some of these more obscure stories, was like, he's interested in bringing people that don't always get their due for it. Like, but I mean, if we get like another season and we have to do, I think it was like 12 or 13 episodes, some of them will probably be some of your major people, but even with your major figures, he likes to cover the stuff we don't know about them.
Right.
So, it's not as simple as like, oh, this is about, say Robert Smalls or Madam C.J. Walker. Like it'll get into some like, oh, did y'all know Marianne Pleasant was the person who helped fund John Brown's insurrection? I'm like, no,
I did not know.
I did not know that. And that is an extremely interesting story.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, I asked Rod if there were things that he learned from working on Drapetomaniacs that he could use on his own podcast, The Black Guy Who Tips.
I think in general, there's ideas that there's things I learned here that I can take with me other places. And the main thing I learned was how to write narrative scripts instead of just like what I was writing for Game Theory with Bomani Jones, which was these late night monologue kind of, set up joke, punch, deliver information, don't get sued, like there's a lot of stuff that is different, a different muscle there. And, considering starting from the first script I ever wrote to the last script that I wrote, I'm very proud of my improvement because, I think it's like you can't really know if you can do it until you try. And so this is something that I'm glad I got to try. And, I'm very proud of it. And I think I picked it up pretty well. And I think, everybody there thought I did a good job, and those are the main things that I like to take with me from a job is the goodwill and people feeling like I did what I was supposed to do.
The Black Guy Who Tips and Drapetomaniacs Unshackled History are outstanding podcasts that I strongly recommend. I asked Rod and Karen to share their links so that you know where to find them.
So theblackguywhotips.com is the best way to find our website. The Black Guy Who Tips is how you find us everywhere you listen to podcasts. And yeah, we do a comedy pop culture podcast. We do it like 4 to 5 times a week. And come enjoy us, play games and all that stuff. We have a Black Friday sale going on for our premium shows behind the paywall right now. And you can find that at theblackouttips.com. So yeah, check us out.
Yep, and we use that name everywhere on social media. The Blackout Who Tips. We're just about everywhere. If you want to follow us on Twitter, well, or X as they call it. I'm sorry, X as they call it. You can find Rod on there at Rodimus Prime, and you can find me on there at Say That Again. Dat as in DAT.
And now we move to our first segment, the opening credits, where we talk about Alien Resurrection.
Lieutenant Ellen Ripley sacrificed herself to destroy a dangerous alien threat once and for all. Hundreds of years after her death, unscrupulous scientists from the United Systems military developed techniques to clone Ripley and the alien queen that she carried inside of her when she died. The military believes that it can control and tame the alien threat for the sake of scientific advancement, but not only had they fundamentally changed Ripley, but they've changed the aliens as well.
Released November 26, 1997, produced by 20th Century Fox and Brandywine Production, it grossed over $47 million in the U.S. and Canada and over $161 million worldwide on a reported budget of $75 million. So to put that in perspective, when adjusted for inflation, it grossed over $90 million in today's dollars in the U.S. and Canada and over $308 million worldwide, again in today's dollars, and the reported budget was $143 million. I'm sorry, $143 million in today's dollars. So that means that it needed more than $286 million in today's dollars in order to get a profit, which this movie did not. I was very surprised that this movie didn't make a profit, and I guess we can call that a lesson learned. Up next, we talk about the cast and crew, starting with
Sigourney Weaver, Lieutenant First Class Ellen Ripley, 36706, Ellen Ripley, number 8, Eyewitness, The Year of Living Dangerously, Deal of the Century.
Winona Ryder played Call. She's been in Little Women, released in 1994, Edward Scissorhands, and Girl Interrupted.
I wonder if this was like when she was getting in trouble for shoplifting, if this was around that time, because for some reason I associate that memory with seeing this film is like, right. Oh yeah, Winona was shoplifting, but that could have happened like 10 years after this, but in my brain, I might have bought a ticket and thought about it. I don't know. It's such an innocent scandal compared to what we have now. It's the fond old days. It's the nostalgia of Hollywood where your top starlet goes and tries to shoplift some stuff from a big name store and you just go, oh, Winona, cut it out, you know? Let's see. Dominique Pignon. I don't know if I'm saying this name right. Vries Delicatessen. Vries is the character, I believe. Delicatessen, Amelie, and The City of Lost Children are the movies that Dominique's famous for. I think he may have been the guy in the wheelchair type device, the futuristic wheelchair. Okay. That he does make it to the end. So shout out to Hollywood, trying to be a little better.
Ron Perlman, Johnner, Hellboy, Don't Look Up, Transformers, Rise of the Beast.
I think this is my first, I remember Ron Perlman in that role type of movie where he really stood out to me.
Up next is Gary Dourdan. He plays Christy. You may have seen him on Thursday, All She Wrote, Heaven Sent, but I believe most audiences would remember him from the long-running series CSI, Crime Scene Investigation.
Michael Wincott, he played Elgin, and he was in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, The Crow, and Nope. And I remembered him in Nope. I went and looked him up after I saw this movie because he looked so familiar.
Yes.
And I was like, oh yeah, he was the cameraman in Nope. Oh, the crazy dude.
Kim Flowers, Hillard, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Clear and Present Danger.
Dan Hayata played General Perez. He's also been in The Usual Suspects and Mulholland Drive. but I remember him mostly from the guest spots that he had on Cheers playing Rhea Perlman's estranged husband. And that was kind of a buffoon character. So seeing him in Alien Resurrection as a competent person was kind of it was weird for me to see him in that light.
Yeah, he kind of, they had a lot of those kind of characters in this movie, which I think maybe that's why people why people didn't like some of it, because I feel like they did a good job in the roles that they had, but they weren't like stars, you know? So, but they were great character actors, which is why I liked them. J.E. Freeman, Dr. Wren, he played in Miller's Crossing and Patriot Games. He looked like he was doing an impression of Richard Nixon to me. Like the whole movie, it just felt like he was being Tricky Dick.
Raymond Cruz played Private DeStefano. He's been in Training Days and Under Siege.
The next one is Brad Dourif. Dourif, am I pronouncing that right?
I don't know. It looks like Dorif, maybe.
Dorif, yeah. I was like,
Dourif?
Dourif?
I don't know.
Brad Dourif. We're going to go with Dourif. Hopefully that's close enough. Brad Dourif. Dr. Giddyman. Giddyman?
Maybe Gettyman?
Gettyman?
Yeah.
Gettyman? Okay. The Lord of the Rings 2. The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Leland Orser, who plays Purvis, and I guess is known for Taken and Seven.
This is directed by Jean Pierre Genet. Am I?
It's French, so it's probably like Jean-Pierre Jeunet.
Okay. Okay. Because I'm looking at it, I was like, I don't think that's right.
Well, after you say it, just go. Oh. That's what I do.
Directed by John Pierre. I'm gonna say oui, but I don't think that.
You keep trying to get it. You got it. Just move on. You got it. We figured it out. We made the jokes.
We figured it out. A Very Long Engagement, Amelie, Delicatessen, and the City of Lost Children.
Nah, I need to really watch Amelie too, because all the movie buffs always refer to the shit, and I've seen more spoofs of Amelie than I've ever seen
the
Amelie.
movie. True.
At this point, so I kind of owe it to myself to go ahead and watch that. Music by John Frizzle. He has 83 composer credits. He did Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe. Wow, that's some range.
Yes, that is.
Office Space, Texas Chainsaw, and Legion. Damn, yeah, he got range.
All right. Thanks, Rod. Thanks, Karen, for helping me present the opening credits. Now I want to transition over to acknowledge our other very special guest, that being the person who helped me put this skit together that you heard at the beginning of the show. Her name is Rossie McCree. She's an actor, and she's also a podcaster. She's a co-host of Movie Lovers Unite. She's been a guest on this podcast, and I just want to thank her for helping me put this skit together. Also, I wanted to announce that we have a new newsletter, and to encourage you to subscribe to this newsletter. I am having a Felix the Cat giveaway, so if you want a chance to win this Felix the Cat t-shirt, please go over to our website at www.backlookcinema.com and sign up for the newsletter, and you just might get a t-shirt. Now let's talk about our favorite parts.
So I'll go first. I love the Alien franchise to a unreasonable degree. So I even love the bad ones. So the ones that people don't like are some of my favorite movies. I'll never forget like The Rock. I know him as Rock. Being in like Alien 3, in the prison. And the thing I like about the Alien franchise is that it never really moves off of its center of the morality of the universe, which is essentially that corporate greed and and science with unchecked morality will always come back to fuck us up. And it hits on a couple of my favorite genres of film. Obviously science fiction. I'm not a huge horror person, but I love sci-fi horror. And then a genre that I like to call white people fucking with shit they got no business fucking with. And the alien films, even Prometheus, they all stick to that theme of just some rich white people are like, no, I think we can control the uncontrollable alien species. And you're like, okay, well, in about 30 minutes, everybody's going to start dying. And I get off on it. I root for the aliens, to be honest. So like in this one, this is one of my favorite ones because the aliens were winning for the vast majority of this film until like right up to the end. And I mean, low key, they kind of still won. It's just some people got away, but they did a great job.
I really enjoyed this movie. It's been a very, very long time since I had seen it, so it was like almost like a refresher type of thing. I was like, oh yeah, the whole time. And so I remember I think I seen the first one in the theater. I think I seen this one in the movie theater, and it was one of the ones where I just enjoyed the twist of the android, and looking at it now, it's hilarious because I don't know what year this is, but I guarantee you it was probably back then in the year 2023, 2030, which is actually not that far from reality right now.
I think it said 2033.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So it makes me laugh because I'm like, oh, we are like 10 years from that. So none of this is really happening in real life. So I just enjoyed looking at the tech that they have compared to what we have now and things like that. So it was just a fun, it was a very nostalgic ride. I think if I had to pick, I don't know. I am a sucker for the original one. Like the original one has always been my jam because it kind of introduced you to everything, and then the rest of them kind of fall in various different places.
Aliens is it for me. Like that, it don't get better than that, man. I know the first Alien is a lot like the John Carpenter one is more horror, but I like the good guys getting guns and fighting back.
The one with Sigourney Weaver as the main person is the one I'm talking about.
Well, she was an alien too. So Aliens is the one with the Marines, and they have such iconic moment. They have a Newt, the little girl that survives. They have my man that goes, "We're all gonna die, man,"
and just start panicking.
Game over. Like that one's classic. The radar. There's so many iconic moments that people have. I don't want to say stolen, but been inspired by. And it's like it's been repeated in so much science fiction at this point. It's almost old hat. That was an iconic, ground shifting movie to me. Aliens is just peak cinema.
Right. So what you call it? As I said before, this is one of my favorite movies, and Aliens is great. And I think for me is almost like the same with Alien. It has the same kind of tone, I guess, because 1 and 3 are more horror focused, and then I think 2 and 4 or more like action adventure type. And they had like military types in both movies. It was very focused on people just shooting aliens instead of like being scared of the acid falling on them. And in Alien 3, they didn't even have weapons, right? So they had to get creative at how they had to deal with the alien. And I think it was only 1 they really had to worry about. But the thing that struck me about this movie was that how different Ripley was. So in Alien 3, she's playing, basically Sigourney Weaver is playing a different character. Sigourney Weaver is playing a clone of what we basically found out in the movie. She's playing a clone of a human that's fused with the alien DNA. And the way that she just acts weird is just striking, right? So if I'm going to talk about one of my favorite things about the movie, I'm going to put one of the things in my top 5 is weird Ellen Ripley. Like she's like one of the weird things about Alien 3, how she was with the doctor, and it's like she's automatically DTF for no real reason. It seemed kind of out of character for her. And then it was like she was just looking at the dude. She's like, I'm ready to get down if you is. But in this movie, she sort of starts acting like that, and then she punches dude in the face, right? So it was, she does that throughout the entire movie, and then she's walking around talking about, I hear them. It's crazy. It's an amazing performance. It's a great reinterpretation of the character. So if you want to start off, like, just shouting out what your top 5 favorite moments are, what are you going to go with?
Well, for this film, I think discovering that Carl is one of the robo peoples. Because the whole movie, you're like, what is her deal? And she's like trying to save everybody to a fault in a way that, to me makes the character almost seem stupid. And then when she gets shot and comes back and you find out she's one of those robot people, it's like, oh, that makes so much sense. And then the way that Ripley, who is not Ripley, doesn't have the innate fear, because Ripley she was racist against them cyborgs. She did not. Nothing.
Not messing around.
She hated them almost worse than the aliens.
Well, here's the thing: the robot tried to kill her. So
yeah. but it didn't matter how many years passed. The robot pop up. She like, here we go with the bull. So I really did enjoy. Carl's the big reveal. Karen, you want to go next, and then I guess
yeah,
1-1-1.
Okay,
right.
Okay, I like the fact that the aliens could swim, because that's something that I did not know. When they hit that water, I was like, oh snap! They are swimming like sharks. Y'all better get out the water.
Yeah, that what's fascinating about that part is that they look like they swim better than they could get around on land. So it was like, oh, we do. It's like when they jumped in the water, the aliens like, oh, we do this. This is how we roll.
Yes. Absolutely.
And it's, oh my God, the underwater scenes always give me anxiety, because it's like when they're underwater holding their breath, I have the reflex of wanting to hold my breath. I feel like, and then I wonder, can I hold my breath as long as they can while they're in that scene? And how long would I last? Like, at what point do I start to drown? That's what I'm wondering. So,
and they make it take way beyond the human capacity for lungs, because they have to film so many things and cut them in so many shots and do so much blocking that, by the end of the scene, it feels like they've been underwater for 5 or 6 minutes. You're like, everyone would have drowned.
Right. And when they got to the end, they had that membrane covering up the exit.
Yes.
So they couldn't get out right away. They couldn't breathe right away. They had to use what little bit of left of energy they had after swimming that distance to try to break through the membrane. Just crazy. So yeah, that underwater parts give me the heebie-jeebies. So I'm trying to look at what was interesting when this movie opened was it had this fleshy body horror thing that was going on. It's not one of my favorite parts. I just wanted to make note that was gross and unsettling. So let's see. So one of my favorite parts is the upside down shooting. So this is like near the end of the movie. What happens is that they're escaping. They have to climb a ladder. They have to climb. You had Christy, he's carrying what's his name, the wheelchair guy on his back. They had to ditch his wheelchair, and now Christy is carrying him on his back, and they're climbing up. The aliens are following him, and they're being menaced, and they can't shoot at the alien, so Christy starts calling out for help. He calls for John to help, and for some reason I used to think it was. I had seen this movie so long that I thought that Christy did the upside down move, but it wasn't Christy. It was John, played by Ron Perlman. He's further up the ladder, so he swings upside down and starts firing past Christy and the guy on his back to shoot the alien. Now I don't know how that would work, right? Because if you're hanging upside down and you point your guns down, I feel like you're going to just shoot the guy that's right beneath you. That's what I feel like. But
Yes.
somehow, but he was able to shoot the alien.
Iconic scene.
Right. It's kind of like what you call it. It's the best type of movie magic. It's my favorite type of movie magic, but it's just a brilliant scene that they did.
Yeah. Never made sense to me when I was watching it. I just remember being like, wait, what? I mean, but you're obviously hoping that at this point the mercenaries get out. Another scene for me that's like a classic moment is the Sigourney Weaver basketball scene.
Yes.
It's so ridiculous, but I love it anyway. And you can tell when like Hollywood people write stuff and they've never played basketball
Right.
at all, and the actor's not like a basketball professional or anything.
Right.
And it's also like completely ridiculous in that one, Ron Perlman's immediately acting like a jerk, like, yeah, I can show you another sport to play indoors. And then after she flips him or whatever, the black dude goes off and hits her with the bench press bar
Unprovoked.
with a weight on it, which if she was not a super creature would have killed any woman. It's like, what is happening? Y'all are gonna commit murder on this ship? Oh man. And then the coup de grace, the final part is when she goes to leave and without fighting them or whatever, blood still on her face, she throws the basketball over her head backwards and hits the shot. And I'm just like, what? Who wrote this Space Jam part of this script? This is so crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy, and I think that they were trying to establish her character as being kind of weird, and that's what I chop all that up to. Is just they just want to emphasize,
but it's just as a person to think about the if you, me, and Karen were on someplace and you started essentially sexually harassing this stranger, and then she flips you over, I'm like, good for her. The last thing I'm thinking is I'm gonna hit her with the biggest thing I can pick up in the face.
Right.
Straight to the face.
She has to die now.
Yeah. Mentally deficient criminals. I mean, because they're not the good guys. I think that's another thing they weren't established. Like, these are the type of people that if you flip them off, they will punch you in the face.
I mean, that's the thing about the Alien series. I think I've always liked it. There's never really a good person as like a protagonist, except for Ripley.
Right.
Almost every time, like, people either have ulterior motives or they're in it for themselves or just survival. But very rarely is there just like a true blue, like, hey, we're here to save everybody and just do the right thing characters. And yeah, this was no exception. The mercenaries were acting like mercenaries.
Right. I don't know. I would argue it that in this movie, Ripley's a little bit shady. She's just a little bit.
Yeah. In this one, I don't count her as Ripley, by the way.
Right.
I do not count this character as Ripley. So to me, Ripley been dead 200 years. So
right.
The only person that seems like they may have some altruistic motives is Carl, who is not really a person.
Right. That's true. Well, actually, she did. Like, her motive was to stop the evil scientists from allowing the aliens to spread. But she was doing it, she was doing it for the benefit of humanity and not for the detriment. So yeah, absolutely. So did I just go? I'm confused who's turn is now. It's Karen's turn. I thought so.
One of the things that I liked about this, I liked that the brother died second. I know that might sound small, but the first person that died was not black, so I was here for it.
Right.
He just came to check on the white dude, and they took him out number 2. I was like, look, I'll take number 2 versus number 1. I know that. I like, take the small victories.
Right, absolutely. I think in the 90s is when they started getting conscious of when people died, so they started to. And the funny thing is that it's not like that's when that they began horror movies doing that. It's just something that kind of progressed over time, and then they realized, and it's not just horror movies, but it's also action movies or any drama where there's a lot of killing. And what I'm thinking about specifically is the original Night of the Living Dead, and the black guy was basically the guy that had survived at the end. At least he survived the zombies at the end, right? But it's just something that had just started where it's like, we have to have a black character. Oh, good, let's kill him off in at the end of Act 1, right? Mm-hmm. So absolutely, I do like to take notice of that. One of the things I liked was a scene when Ripley had the number 8 tattoo on her arm, right? And they always alluded to it. And then there was a scene where they're trying to escape, and she goes into the room where all the other experiments, the Ripley's experiments, and how some of them, like one of them had an alien head and a human body, and one of them was like, it was just a fusion of flesh between Alien and Ripley. And just going through this, it's like a museum of horror. And then she came to the last one. It was almost perfect. But she was asking Ripley to kill her. And, and then she started like burning all of the bodies and whatnot. She was having a very emotional moment. And that was a great scene by itself. But what I really liked is like when Johnner came at the end of the scene, he was like, I don't get it. It's such a waste of ammo. Must be a chick thing. And the reason I found it so funny is because, yes, that was a waste of ammo. You're going to blow up the space station anyway. What are you doing?
Right. Right. That's so true. They just had to let you know he's a jerk.
Right. But
over the top jerk.
Like everybody else understood her emotional state. Right. He's like, nah. I'm the one. Johnner's the guy that says it. You know?
Yeah. Johnner's the guy that says it. And he acknowledges that he is a man without basically without feeling or understanding or empathy, right? So he's like, it must be something beyond what I am capable of experiencing. So I always thought that was funny.
Yeah. Another one for me is when the scientist messes with the alien.
Oh yeah.
Once again, this is why this film is in my one of my favorite genres. White people fucking with shit they ain't got no business fucking with, because he antagonizes the alien, and it's obvious the alien is smart. Like in addition to, they probably shouldn't have kept their version of Ripley alive. Like that was also a mistake,
right?
And just let her like roam around playing basketball and stuff. Like that was a mistake. But then like making a super smart like human hybrid like alien type thing that they didn't understand, and then punishing it with that cold like that frosting.
It's probably liquid nitrogen.
Yeah, and not killing it, by the way, just enough to make it be scared.
Right.
I was like, these guys have no idea what they're in for. And I appreciate that he got his comeuppance so quickly after that scene. But man, the camera work in this film is iconic because so many tight, close, angled shots. And the shot of him at the glass, putting his mouth almost up to the alien's mouth is just one of the most like intense, crazy moments where you're like, even the scientists in this film are crazy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got to be crazy to want to go through such lengths of trying to bring back the aliens in the first place after all you know about them, considering all the knowledge, because they knew everything. They had all the data, and they were like, we're gonna bring this back to life, right? So how do we do it? They're all dead. Well, we have the blood sample from the last alien survivor, so let's do that. Let's clone that. Let's clone this blood sample, and let's do it over and over again.
In a world where they had invented human cloning with the ability to clone apparently even some of the memories from the person, y'all are still messing around with these aliens?
Right.
What are y'all doing?
Right. So that is a great point.
To piggyback on what Roderick said about the aliens being smart, they actually sacrificed one of their own. That's how smart they was.
Right.
Because they, because when you first watch it, if you've never seen it before, you were like, oh, they fight with each other. And you just see somebody stabbing, and you see the acid. I was like, oh, they was like, we are so smart that we know we can get out of here if we can get this acid to eat this iron. And it was like humans are so narcissistic that they think they control everything when actually we control nothing.
Right.
And so that was beyond their control. And then everybody wants to panic. And what was hilarious, it makes me go back to Ripley. Ripley was like, oh, y'all gonna die.
Oh, yeah,
and they took her for a joke. She was like, yeah. Everybody in here dead. I don't know what. Just your time is ticking. You're gonna die.
Yeah, I want to say that's also one of my favorite parts. So, and what I liked about it is like and you're right, when you first see it, it's like, oh, they fight. Now, why are they fighting? Why would they want to fight? What's their beef? And it looks like an argument, right? It's shot just like three dudes, they getting into a brawl, and the dude is like, you gonna have to take one for the team. It's like, no, I ain't gotta take one. Well, I gotta take one for the team. Why can't Alex take one for the team for once, man? Why am I always the one that gotta take one for the team?
It's the way that every movie where the good guys need to break out of jail, it's the same plot. Where it's like, oh, we'll pretend to fight each other. They'll come in to break it up. We're going to escape. Except, it was alien acid blood instead of the guards coming in.
Except in this case, they had to murder one of the escapees.
Yeah.
Now, we can't. They was like, we can't just. It's like, why can't you just give me a little cut and I can just use a little bit of blood? It's like, nah, we gotta sacrifice your entire body because we're gonna need a lot of blood for all of us to get out of here. So you got to take one for the team. So yeah, that is one of the better parts in this movie. How many parts we have? I think this is the fourth one. I think we got one more to go.
Yeah, I think everybody is either at 3 or 4. So, but we just keep going until you're ready.
Right. Well, let's do one more round. All right. I'm not even counting right now.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. I actually wrote down a couple more. So
yeah, well, get them out. Get them out your system.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and just do them. Let me do our. I'm gonna do our both of the ones I wrote.
Right.
First of all, Wheelchair Buddy making it to the end.
Yes.
That was huge. Because they definitely did the thing where I thought he was dead because they cut away from him, screaming with his gun when the alien was coming towards him. I said, "Damn, man." The 90s wasn't nothing, boy. It was messed up. They just was letting people, black people, women, you was dead. But he made it to the end. I thought that was dope.
Right.
I definitely have to give it to even though her role was small and I felt like she killed the role, but they really didn't do her justice. Hillard. Kim Flowers in the thong. Such a gratuitous.
For no reason, 90s. I had that one too. For no reason,
right?
Gratuitous 90s. Just
right.
We got a woman in here. Somebody gotta see that ass. We just gotta make sure. Didn't add nothing to the plot.
Nothing. It was no reason for that shot. You were just looking. You were like, why am I looking at feet? Why am I looking at that ass?
And then she just dies, like getting drowned by aliens later. You're like, okay,
right.
And then my last thing was Chekhov's alien, which is the dude who we knew had been implanted with an alien.
Yes.
And you knew he was going to die at some point because you don't do alien movies and not show that thing bust out somebody's chest.
Right.
And so the way they weaponized that where he knew the exact second it was going to bust out, he took like 6-7 bullets to the chest, grabbed the main bad guy, and held him and let the alien burst through both of them.
Right.
It's such ridiculousness, but also such like cool alien like lore. So I love that stuff.
Right. I can't imagine being able to be cognizant and then like I can see him knowing when the thing's gonna burst out of his chest because it hurts a lot, but to be able to be cognizant and functioning, to be able to run over while something's bursting through your body, I don't see that happening. Like
he may have had the worst death. Like if it wasn't the worst death in that movie, it's top 3.
Right. Absolutely. That was pretty bad. I like that you had referred to it as Chekhov's alien.
Because they meet the guy and they should shoot him in the head right away. Come on.
Absolutely.
Come on. What are we doing, guys?
Ripley tells you.
Let him come with us. Like, for what?
Ripley tells you, oh, it's inside.
Yeah, she smelled him. She was like, like Ripley
don't smell right.
Yeah, that version of Ripley has no couth and no personal space understanding. But
right.
Yeah, she smelled him and was like, there's an alien in him.
Right.
He can't come with us. They're like, nah, we'll figure it out. Okay.
Right. They was going to freeze him and then they was going to figure out after they defrosted him. But no, that's not how you do it in Aliens.
Right. Which has never worked in any of the
films. Right. It's never worked in in any of the movies.
That's not how any of this works.
Right.
The dude in the wheelchair, I appreciate them not freezing them out. And the reason why I say, because a lot of times, like Roger said, they either kill them or they freeze them and they're quote unquote a damsel in distress.
Right.
I appreciated when him and the brother was there to have they flip roles.
Right.
All of a sudden he was the one climbing up the ladder,
kind
of being the strong one. So I appreciate them doing that, and I appreciate, like Roger said, kind of him living to the end,
right?
Because most of the time characters like that, they kind of discard those characters, like those characters really don't quote unquote matter at all because of their disabilities,
right?
And so I appreciate that. And the character that played Ron Perlman, his character would have been in January the 6th. Like I got that the whole time. I was like, yes, you definitely went to one of Trump's rallies if you would have been, if you lived long enough in your universe, the timeline, and Trump was in office, you would have been there.
Right.
My last thing is the scientists. The scientists did some fucked up shit to the people where they were cutting them and all that stuff. I was like, that's not unlike real scientists in real life. Because if you sit back and think about it, for those of you who go to the OGBYN, the stirrups that they crank open,
right?
That was a torture device.
I understand what you're saying,
but yeah, that was a form of a torture device. And so I would go, yeah, like, and you didn't get any shots or anything, cutting people open and all types of stuff just for the quote unquote furtherance of science.
Right.
So I know they did a quote unquote over the top version, but it's funny how it's not too far from the reality that we're actually in today, how people just don't care about things when it quote unquote comes to science.
Right. Yeah. Just it's a good trope in science fiction, the unscrupulous scientist. That makes stories worth watching sometimes. So I'm gonna finish this off. So this is kind of like in reference to the upside down shooting. So in that same scene, so Vries, the man who was in a wheelchair, or I'm pretty sure it's Vries, but it could be Virus. I can't remember. Anyway, I'm gonna go with Vries. So Vries, like you said, he flips over and he's holding on to, now he's actually, not only is he in a wheelchair, but he's actually shorter. He's a shorter stature than a normal sized man. Plus, he had a mechanical wheelchair, so his arms aren't really as well developed as like a person like today going around in a regular wheelchair where they have to push themselves.
Right.
So if you see like a person in a wheelchair and it's not a mechanical one, they have very well developed arms. So, but this guy doesn't. So he's not only is he short, but he's not that strong. So now he's carrying all of this weight of a full grown black man on his back. I think the dude was like 6 feet tall or something like that. And he's on this ladder and so the Christy is just hanging there and he's realizing that he's not going to make it. So Christy starts unbuckling and stuff. And it's like, even though Reese cannot hold on to Christy, he's like, Reese is about to let both of them fall down. But Christy realizes that he's not going to make it. So he starts unbuckling the backpack and he allows himself to fall down. And I thought that sacrifice was magical. That's like, if you're going to kill a black man, if it's going to have to be a death, make it a good one. So that's
yes.
That was, it's like, that's a heartbreaking, even though he's the type of dude that would punch you in the face with a weight just for flipping him off. It was still kind of like an incredible, noble sacrifice that he made. And so I love that. And then carrying on, I love the fact that it kind of showed up the Jonna character, Ron Perlman. So he survives to the end. And he's the one who knows how to fly the ship. Jonna doesn't know how to fly. He's not a pilot. He just knows how to shoot guns. Like the first thing he does in the movie is he takes a knife and he slings it at Vries and it hits Vries in the leg. Vries can't feel it because he has no feelings in his leg. Mm-hmm. But this is just how like sick and sadistic that Jonna is. He's the type of person that do that. And then like later on in the movie, they said like, well, we need to let Vries go because Vries is a cripple. Like he basically says it like that, right? He's like, Vries is a liability. We can't take him. And Vries is the one that ends up saving them all. I thought that was,
and they hug, like they're hugging, celebrating at the end. because
and
those two made it.
And he kissed
Right.
him on the lips.
Yeah, I
Right,
was like,
right.
I did not see that coming.
what a
Right.
character twist.
Right. Well, when somebody saves your life, you're happy about it, right?
Yeah, of course.
You
of
have a
course.
different outlook on life. It's not always like that episode in The Jeffersons when George
Right.
Jefferson saves that white dude, and the white dude is when he survived, he says, "I wish they'd have let me die." It's not everybody's like that.
Right. I did have one more quick one to add.
Yeah, go ahead.
Which is just the black dude who he dies in the alien chamber with the freezing nitrate, like whatever that stuff is.
Yes.
Right.
Freezing him to death. And we watched because, the special effects were kind of iffy for some of this, obviously, because it's so old.
Right.
But that special effects was actually dope when he goes to move his arm and it's frozen into the wall, and he had a cool
breaks.
death. Yeah.
Yeah, he had a Mortal Kombat death. That didn't look good at all.
Yeah,
That was
absolutely.
Finish him.
Right. It's like he got hit with Sub-Zero. That was terrifying. That to die like that, and it's like that was also a good death when you think about it. As horrifying as it is, it's not that I would want to go out that way. It looks painful as hell, and but it is something. It was a sight to behold when you saw it in the movie theaters. So those were our favorite moments in the movie, and making this movie was a journey. So I want to go over some of the trivia, some of the behind the scenes, talk about how this movie was made. So let's go over the trivia top 10.
All right. Boom. Sound effects. Sigourney Weaver originally refused to do a fourth Alien film. When asked why she changed her mind, she replied, "They basically drove a dump truck full of money to my house."
That'll do it every time.
Respect. That's probably why she's in these Avatar movies.
Yeah, because they pulled up dump truck. Yeah,
Right.
and I don't blame her. Another reason Weaver signed on for the film was because of one of the scenes in particular when Ripley 8 encounters her previous seventh aborted genetic incarnations.
Yeah, so she had a very profound reaction, I guess, reading that in the script. So I think that's another reason why she wanted to do it. And that was a very impactful scene, as I talked about it earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So Sigourney Weaver made the behind the back court or half court basketball shot successfully after 3 weeks of basketball practice. Tutored by a basketball coach, her conversion rate during this time was one of over 6 shots. Tell me, is that good? Is that good or bad? What is that?
1 in 6. I mean, that's not bad, but the problem is filming. It's probably bad because
a lot.
that's 6 takes.
Right.
Yes, a lot of film wasted.
And keep in mind, there's 6 takes, and they probably need you to make it a bunch of takes and just use those to pick from. So I can see why filming wise, you'd be like, I don't know if we want to do this.
Well, it's actually worse than you think. So to continue, but the distance was much lower than it would be in the actual scene. When the day came to shoot the scene, director Jean-Pierre Jeunet wanted to have the ball dropped from above rather than wait for Weaver to sink the shot herself, which would probably take about 200 takes. Weaver insisted that she could get the shot in herself and was allowed to do so, though it is commonly said that she sank the basket on her first attempt. It actually took her endless takes to complete the stunt. Jeunet gave her one last try to sink the basket before they would give up and use CGI or a second basketball. The very next take, Sigourney Weaver successfully managed the trick. Ron Perlman broke character and began smiling when he saw it. The people on the set started cheering. The editors looked at the shot and decided that there was enough room to get the scissors in. Weaver was excited about making the shot, but Jeunet was concerned that audiences would believe that the shot to be fake due to the ball leaving the frame. Upon Weaver's insistence, he kept in the shot as it was. Weaver described the miracle shot as one of the best moments of her life after her wedding day and the birth of her daughter. That is fantastic.
That's why we film movies, guys.
You know what's funny is that I always thought it was done in the first take, but it wasn't the first take. It was after countless takes.
Yeah, it honestly makes the story better in a way, but also what a waste of resources.
Yeah, what a waste of film. And this was shot on film, obviously, because it's 1997, and that's a lot of film. That's a lot of film.
and honestly, it's honestly why it aged so well, because there's CGI in other parts of this film, and absolutely. You're like, oh no,
but
that will always hold up because it's a real special effect that actually happened.
Right.
Janae wanted to have a scene where a mosquito bites Ripley and then vanishes into smoke because of her acid blood. Eventually, he dropped the idea after the special effects team told him how much it would cost.
Yeah, probably a lot cheaper to do that now.
Well, my God. It's also kind of dumb. Like, they're in space.
Yeah, why a mosquito get there? Right.
That is true. They breed mosquitoes along with the aliens on the ship. Why would I'm just not think the Karen?
Why would a mosquito
even be on the ship? Right. My bad.
It's fucked up that's not the reason they canceled it. It's because of the money. Someone should have just been like, there's not gonna be a mosquito on the spaceship.
How would a mosquito survive out here, y'all? Yeah. Like, come on now. There's no air. Ron Perlman nearly drowned while filming the underwater sequence. At one point, when trying to surface, he hit his head on a sprinkler in the ceiling. Wow. Knocking him out cold. He was rescued by nearby film crew members.
Wow.
I'm sorry. He was rescued by, nearby film crew members.
Right. So, man, that's why I said that I don't like how it feels to watch people in the underwater scenes, because you do get a lot of this happening a lot when actors nearly drown trying to film a sequence, or they get something like hypothermia or something like that. It's like, man, what are y'all doing to these actors?
Yeah, particularly if it's something that they're not trained in. That's why when they did Black Panther 2, the director was like, yeah, everybody gonna learn how to swim. Everybody. If you hit this water, you gonna learn how to swim.
Right. So the underwater sequence marked the first time that Winona Ryder had gone underwater since a near drowning incident that happened to her when she was 12 years old. The actress suffered a complete anxiety attack on the first day of filming in the underwater set. So yeah, I can imagine.
Ryder agreed to do this film even before reading the script. She stated she didn't care if she died in the first scene, she'd do it. Ryder claimed that she could boast about being in the Alien movie to her younger brothers. Oh, that's cool.
Aww.
Yeah, it is.
The studio wanted to cut the scene preceding Ryder's encounter with the alien queen because it's rather sexual nature. Ooh. They decided to keep it with Sigourney's. They decided to keep it when Sigourney Weaver threatened not to promote the film if the scene was cut. She was like, "Not on my watch."
Right. I guess she was like, "What are you doing?" It's like studios would just be having notes.
Yeah.
She's like, "I don't like them notes."
I mean, it's interesting because like that's the hard thing about Hollywood and even like what we consider to be like sexualization versus exploitation is because like these actors, some of them want to be sexy on screen.
Right.
Like it's not just the male gaze or like a creepy director. Sometimes an actor's like, I've been doing Pilates and y'all gonna get these cheeks. Like I need, like if y'all cut this out the movie, I'm mad. Don't cut that out the movie. I need that.
I didn't get this body work. I didn't do these 6-packs bench pressing for nothing.
So I could like that's one of those times where it's kind of funny because like there's I think that this year especially we've had quite a few like movies where it's been quote unquote controversial, where there's like, oh, this character, Florence Pugh was in, this movie about the atom bomb, but she's naked in half the movie, and Florence Pugh's the main person. Like, don't take that out. I want to get an Oscar.
The Oscars like naked ladies, so just
Yeah, I don't know if y'all heard, but they think this is brave being a super hot chick that gets naked. So I would like my Oscar, please.
We're gonna keep this in the film.
Sex sells and it also earns Oscars.
Yes.
This ain't the first movie I've been naked, and I've been trying this for a while.
Yeah, exactly. Right. They wasn't feeling little women like this.
Right. I'm trying to do something strange for some change. So Ron Perlman did most of his own stunts, particularly the scene where he hangs upside down off a ladder by his legs whilst firing 2 guns at an alien. The next day, when he went to take a shower, he discovered that he had severely lacerated the backs of his legs in doing so. That, ladies and gentlemen, is why we have stunt performers.
Yep.
I mean, it looked good. So it looked so good. And he didn't even know that he had hurt himself.
Because that's the thing. One, he didn't do that one time. They had to do that a bunch of times to get that shot.
Right.
From a bunch of different angles. And then the second thing is, let's say there's no way to do that without cutting your knees.
Right.
They'd rather some stunt person cut their knees up than Ron Perlman.
And I don't know. It's like, I feel like if they had planned for Ron Perlman to do that stunt, that they would have, fortified his legs some kind of way. They would have put some extra padding on it. I mean, they do that all the time. So I think this is an instance where it was just kind of like a spur of the moment decision, or it was where they was going to get a stunt double, but he decided that he could do it and it would look better if he did it. Yeah, I think it was a combination of those two things because I guess nobody had tested this out to see what the physical effects on the human body would be.
Right. And he probably was like, I'll do it. I'm a tough guy.
Right.
As somebody who just went to the masseuse and they were massaging, she was like, "Ooh, you got a bruise on your hip." I think I hit my hip on the drawer and it bruised, and that was just fit my hip on the drawer. So I couldn't even imagine being bent over for hours.
Right.
Sigourney Weaver was paid $11 million to come back as Ripley, which was the entire budget of Alien 1979, not adjusted for inflation.
Right. Ooh. So that's like she could have made her own movie after that.
Good for her.
That's incredible. Yeah, she got that. When she said they brought a dump truck, so that's what that's what a dump truck looks like in 1997.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to transition to our final segment. We're going to talk about what the critics thought. So the critics gave it a 53%. Audience has it at 39% on Rotten Tomatoes. IMDb reviews has it at 6.2 out of 10. This is all a shock to me. It's, you know how you go to the movies and to you it's such a great movie and you think everybody likes the movie the same way you like it. Especially like back in the 90s, I wasn't really paying attention all that much to they didn't have anything like Rotten Tomatoes, so I wasn't looking at like aggregated reviews. It was just me and my friend circles and like whether we liked the movie or not. I wasn't certain what the outside world was thinking. So when I saw this, it was a shock to me.
David Anson, Newsweek, the franchise has lost none of its taste for acid spewing, flesh impaling, entrail dripping gore. But the tone has changed. He was like, this is not for me. If this was a cup of slime, this jauntily gruesome installment won't disappoint.
Mike Clark, US Today, with the great Darius Kanji, Stephen Avita, Seven and Avita photographing. Resurrection looks stylishly decayed, but it echoes Alien 3 by failing to realize how much the first 2 series entries benefited from character-driven stories. I mean, listen, the cinematography is great. I don't even think you can knock that. But yeah, apparently he didn't like the film.
Here's the thing. I thought the film had lots of great characters. I thought it was character driven. I did, and I don't think that the other movies are any more character driven than this movie. So I don't understand what his take is, because it's like,
I feel like, so I think what's killing this film is Aliens. I think Aliens is so good that people are like, they're expecting like a legitimate just Aliens sequel. Like that, not another story in the Aliens universe, but like a continuation of that specific story. And I would bet that makes up for a lot of the low reviews on this one and the movie before it.
Right. And but I feel like there were a lot of, I guess because they're character actors, or they're acting in a character actor type of way. I guess, and there's no real progression for a lot of the characters, but I don't, or at least from his point of view, but I don't see it that way.
I mean, it introduces a lot of characters. There's not like, it's almost like an ensemble cast.
Yeah.
This Ripley is not Ripley. So then you got them kind of knocking it for that, because it's like, it's not character driven. She's not a real, this isn't like Ripley continuing her legacy from the other films. Like, I think that's what they're hitting it for. And I hear them, but I think the difference is I love this universe of alien stuff. And give me all the sci-fi weird stuff. Give me all to me. So I just, I get their point. I wouldn't, debate if they didn't like it, they didn't like it, but I just wasn't looking, like, I guess he said, it's my cup of slime. I like this cup of slime.
Right. So you read my part, so let me read this next part here.
My bad.
No, you're fine. It's cool. Where it's all about adjusting and flexing. So James Crute from stuffco.nz, I guess that's New Zealand, wrote, "What could have been an afterthought that ruined the series' credibility was actually not only a surprisingly enjoyable romp, but also rather thought-provoking." And and I think the thing that he's thinking about is the 1 through 7 Ripleys that Ripley had to burn. And the weird sexual tension between Ripley and the alien queen. There was also and Ripley and her son, because her alien son, because at some point it almost looked like the son wanted to do her or something. It got kind of great. It got kind of like Oedipus. Her alien
She was
child.
definitely playing it very primal. Like she was, and I think not even trying to be gross or whatever, but there was like a very sexual energy to just her character in this film that's different from all the other films.
Right. Absolutely. Well, we really didn't want to see her as a sexual character in the first 3 movies. Because she's trying to be like a professional, and especially in Alien and Alien, she's a professional pilot. So we're not even looking at her that way. And
it's basically survival horror.
Right.
And of course you have your crude, sexual stuff, because, you're around a bunch of ruffians. It's the Marines and all this stuff.
Right.
In the first Alien is just that dude that's like a jackass that works for the company. But, by this is the first time that she's felt sexual. Like, no. I'm in your personal space. Come over here. Let me smell you real quick.
Right.
Like, oh my God, what is going on? Am I attracted to Sigourney Weaver? What is she doing right now? Sigourney, stop.
You play too much.
Right. All right.
Brian.
I'll go ahead.
I'm about to say Brian Egert. Deep Focus review. It's an abomination. That like essential monster deserves to be sucked out into space from a tiny opening and forgotten for all time.
Damn, I don't think he liked it.
Let us know how you feel.
I know, right? He was going in. And he's wrong. So that's it for Aliens. Finally, Alien Resurrection is, as of this recording, available on streaming. That's it for today. In a fortnight, we'll be back with a Christmas movie of some sort. You can follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, or Threads at Backlick Cinema. Don't forget that you can contact us with any questions, comments, or suggestions at fanmail@backlinkcinema.com. So, Rod and Karen, do you have any additional plugs?
Just the blackout tips everywhere you're looking for.
That's it.
Our podcast, and just check us out from there.
Awesome. So one last time, if you like this show, then please help us grow by spreading the word about Backlink Cinema, the podcast. And I know that you've enjoyed our guests, Rod and Karen Morrow. So please listen to The Black Guy Who Tips and Draketomania, Unshackled History. Believe me, it matters. I've been Zoe Richardson. Be safe, share a movie from yesteryear with your family, hug your loved ones, and if you're going to be anything, be outstanding.